think it's safe to say these wheel nuts haven't been undone for a very long time, but I think I'm getting there. Well, I've got a real big problem now. I've managed to crack them all except one. This one here, the stud is actually turning inside the hub. Let me show you what I mean. So if I put a line down this, like here, like that, turn the nut, you can now see that line is the other way, which means the stud is turning when it shouldn't do. It should be fixed to that actual hub itself from the back. So the only way to get this off is to grind it off with an angle grinder. I think we need to do a bit of work on this. Yeah, that is definitely in need of some TLC. That's what happens when vehicles stand around for years and years and don't get moved. There's the offending stud. Looks like they're flat backed. Those pads definitely changing. Got to do all this before we even think about converting it into a camper van. Now what I like to do with rusty nuts like this, especially tiny little 10mm nuts, it's a 10mm socket that goes over this, which means it's an 8mm thread, very small. It's been in there for an extremely long time, so to get these undone I'd highly recommend tapping them first like this. So you get a little toffee hammer and just tap them gently, spray some release oil on there. I find what this does, it breaks that rust away. Just tap them like that, and hopefully hold the socket nice and flat. Don't let the socket go like this or like that, you've got to hold it nice and small. There you go. If these were to snap, it'd be a real pain having to drill them out and re-tap those holes. Just move that out of the way. So now that's out of the way, there's a gap down there. Full of crud. Hopefully this caliper will eventually release. I think it's safe to say it's seized up. Although, oh look, it's turning now, so it's moved because it's released the brake. This was completely stuck. Couldn't turn it even with the wheel on. The fact that I can turn it now means there's hope. Just trying to keep myself really. Just turn it like that so you can see what I'm doing. So here's the thing, this entire unit is in two parts. One part is fixed to the back of the hub, and this entire bit here should float, should be able to move. And by putting a bar down there, I'm going at the back of the disc and pushing against these two pistons, and then this should all move. Obviously it's not, so maybe one of these pistons is seized. How am I going to find that out? Is if I can get something down there and lever it back. In theory, these pads should now pull out of there like that. Should just simply slide out. Funny feeling, that ain't going to happen. I'll be right back. So again, I'm just going to get a hammer, give it a tap, and you can see all of this is falling out as I tap it. This should free it all up. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's working. It's gradually filling up. Still not going to move on. Oh, here we go. Moving. These rubber gaiters here are to protect the piston. Hopefully the metal underneath here is nice. I don't want to break the seal to have a look. Just going to, hopefully the pistons are okay. You see they are moving. It's probably the sliders that are seized up, not the pistons. If we can get something underneath one of them, we'll find out. Yeah, let's go. It's going back. Right there, because that top piston's moving back, it means brake fluid is going back up. So I need to undo the reservoir at the top just to let that brake fluid come up, and it will probably overflow because it's been filled up. Well, I've managed to get both pistons to move back a bit. That's the pistons here that I'm talking about. And now look, the actual hub itself is quite free moving. So the sliders are okay. So I think all this hub needs is a bloody good clean. Fingers crossed. Which means all we've got to do is clean up the disc and put some new pads in. Oh, and get a stud, and then we'll be golden. Well, we've still got another 3 to do yet, but we'll see. This is only the first wheel of many. Yeah, look at that. It moves really freely. Which means now it should slide out. Now this vehicle was a cherry picker, therefore it was MOT exempt. So this is the sort of thing I'm expecting to find. Brake pads that are worn down to the bone. When I get this out, I'll show you what I mean. It's pretty dire. I think we should change the law on that. Being MOT exempt, I don't think any vehicle on a public road should be MOT exempt. Looking at this, it's definitely not a good thing. Let's see if we can get the wear indicator out. No, they're going to come out there. There you go, this is how thin they are. There's no way that they would have passed an MOT or any inspection for that matter. Well, the good news is the wheel bearings are nice, but then I'd expected them to be. It's only done 62,000 miles. So yeah, wheel bearings are good, brakes not so good. And this is what the other one looked like. So this is what the pads ended up looking like. This one, pretty much borderline. This one, definitely had it. Definitely seen better days. Right, let's go and find some new ones. Now, although the discs are discoloured, they're not pitted, they're not scored. There's plenty of life left in those. And once the brakes start to bed in, these will become shiny again. I'm quite sure they'll be perfectly fine. Right, let's get this all back together. So I've managed to purchase a kit, a brake pad kit. So we get the springs, the retaining springs that hold the brake pads in. A nice hefty bill. Because I've learnt in the past with Mercedes, you really are better off buying genuine Mercedes parts. There's no point buying pattern parts. I've made that mistake with the Sprinter. I'm not going to make the same mistake with this. Right, so to get them back in, it should be a simple case. Let's put them that side first. I'm just sliding them in place. Simple as that. So I have to push this over and then pads in place. Should have just wiggled in. Then I might have to tap them. There you are. That's them in place. Really simple putting them back together. Just hand tight. Nothing too tight. Don't need them really tight. They're not going to go anywhere. Adrian is going to get in the Vario, put his foot on the brake to stop this turning. You might have to pump it because I've only just put these in. Yeah, that's perfect. Just hold the brake on, I can see the pads moving nicely. There we go, this is easier. You can see the stud has come through, there's a little gap there. So I'll try to overcome that. I'll put the washer on, put the nut back on, and then pull it through just a little bit more. Simple really. Couple of more turns and we'll be there. That's it. Alright, it's done.
No worries.
Thank you.
No worries.
Did the pedal feel solid?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, good. One new stud in place. Well, there you go. I managed to reuse both wear indicators. Wasn't a problem. I'm happy with that. Got new pads, got new spring, got a new stud. All I need to do now is put the front wheel back on and do the back ones. So I'm going to take the wheels off, inspect the pads and discs. Hopefully I only have to change the pads and not the discs. Wish me luck. So these wheels should be easier to undo because they've only just been put on. It's a lot easier than the front ones were. Now what I always like to do is just crack the nuts whilst the vehicle's down on the floor. It just makes it that little bit easier and it saves you rocking the vehicle off of a jack or axle stands. So it's always a good idea to just crack the nuts before you actually jack it up. So now I've cracked the nuts, let's jack it up. Right, so the weight of the van is now shared. The jack is lifting the spring up, the axle stands holding the weight of the van. So it's a kind of shared weight. Right. The rear ones look okay actually. They're just really rusty where it hasn't been moved. There's like a film of rust on there, you can see they're a bit black. I think if I clean all this off, and the pads look okay, I mean there's plenty of meat on them, they're just rusty. Wonder if they'll be alright. Okay, so I've taken the rear pads out. Even though there's plenty of meat on them, there's plenty of thickness is really good. If you look on the inside, they look pretty awful. It's almost like the material has degraded and it's flaking away. So I'm going to change these anyway. Yeah, it's purely because of their age, I think, because it looks like they've been in there for a long time. They've not been used. So I've got them in stock because I brought a whole set. So I'm going to change the back ones anyway. To give you an idea of what the difference is. This is the old one, you can see the edges, it's all nasty. This is the new one. I think I know which ones I'd rather have fitted to my van. So there we go, this is what it's like without the disc in. Now the handbrake is off. As you can see, this moves quite freely. There's the handbrake mechanism there. Now apparently this lower piston is operated by the handbrake. So we need to wind this in using a, I think a 6mm or 8mm Allen key. Let's get to it, I need to get this out. Hey, there we go. Yeah, I'm just seeing there, there's an Allen key.
No worries. No worries.
Need to just wind that in a bit. Well, I really struggled with this because the bottom piston has got an Allen key inside it, or an Allen bolt, and the way to get this bottom piston is to screw that Allen bolt clockwise, and to do that I've had to cut down this 8mm Allen key The easiest way I found was to disconnect the handbrake actuator valve. Works off the air. And if I put that Allen key in there like this, you'll see, watch this arm here. This arm will actually, as I turn it, you can feel the arm go back. Really difficult, yeah, just to film this and do it at the same time, but if you put pressure on this, pushing it back, you can actually feel this winding in. You have to, yeah, I'm not going to be able to explain this very easily, but you can see that arm's going back now and the piston isn't coming forward. There you go, you can see it moving back. Yeah, see that? It's almost back to the point where it can actually... Okay, so I've got it all back together. I've come to the conclusion that if you want to get your brakes done on your Vario, get a professional to do it. Don't try and do it yourself like me. It's really difficult to do. But saying that, I'll try and explain what I've discovered and how it all works. Okay, let's try and do this. So you've got a top cylinder, which is hydraulic. You've got a lower cylinder behind here, which is also hydraulic, but it's also mechanical, controlled by this arm here. And this is operated by the air brake system. It's basically a handbrake, but instead of a cable, we've got compressed air. So when this lever moves to and fro, it creates pressure through into the back of this cylinder, causes the brakes to come on. At the moment, it should be off, yeah. And if I go and put the handbrake on, you'll see this lever move and you'll see exactly how it works. So there you are, that's the handbrake now applied. You see I cannot move this now. Now you see how that lever went that way in that direction. So what I discovered was, instead of trying to use the Allen key to screw this down and get this to compress in, it's a lot easier to compress the hydraulic side in first, but as you push this hydraulic cylinder in, this arm will come forward like ridiculous amounts, so it will actually move right up to here. But don't worry about that. The goal is to get all that hydraulic fluid out of the caliper and back up to the reservoir. And remember, there's two of these, so you have to compress both of these. But the problem I was having is, as I was compressing one, the other one was popping out, which proved a real pain. So what I did, once I got it kind of got them both far enough back as I could, I actually put one of the old discs in place and then used my lever bar and pushed both hydraulic cylinders back as far as they would go. But then this arm, you have to detach it, by the way, you've got to push this pin out. This arm was ridiculously far forward. So what I did then was to get my Allen key, put it into that Allen slot, and then wind it until this arm eventually went back as far as it would go. And then once that was right back, I could then actually slot this pin back in really simply. And also the hydraulic part of this ram stayed back, allowing me to slide the disc pads in place. Do hope all that makes sense. So there you go, the back brakes are pretty similar to the front ones. In fact, they're so similar, they actually share the same brake pads. The brake pads from the rear will actually fit the front as well. The only major difference is, of course, is that handbrake mechanism. But I do hope that helps somebody out there. If you found this video mildly entertaining, slightly informative, then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you very soon. All I've got to do now is the other side.